Hello, everyone. I'm Xinming Xia, PhD candidate from the City University of Hong Kong. Today, I will present my paper, COVID-19 and the Chinese Biennials. First, I will give an introduction. Following is a brief discussion on the pandemic situation in mainland China in the last 2 years. Then I will analyze the examples of the 13th Shanghai Biennale and the first X Museum Triennial, to explore how the biennial organizers combat with the new problems emerged during the unusual time. At last, I will talk about the new situation and give a summary. The arrival of the coronavirus has dramatically influenced our lives since 2020. We have to adopt a working from home mode and transform offline events into online ones. Some events were still largely impacted, such as the biennials and triennials. The outbreak of the COVID-19 has heavily impacted the regular running of the biennials and triennials. Some of them were postponed to 2021 or 2022. Biennial organizers have to reschedule the opening dates, offer virtual exhibitions and tours, and limit the numbers of the visitors. There are still some survivors who successfully hold the biennials in the troublesome years. In mainland China, most of the established biennials basically follow the original schedule to launch the exhibitions. Many new biennials emerged as well. He indicated that people have found some ways to deal with the pandemic and solve the problems to some extent. So let's quickly review what happened in mainland China during the past 2 years. A mysterious virus probed in Wuhan in late 2019. The deadly virus, named COVID-19, has caused numerous deaths within only a few days. As a result, the Chinese government has adopted the strictest public health measures. It has recorded less than 100,000 confirmed deaths and less than 100,000 confirmed domestic cases and less than 5,000 deaths related to the COVID-19 in 2020 to 2021. It seems that life has almost gotten back to normal at that time. Under these circumstances, cultural organizations like museums can run all kinds of events, such as the biennials and triennials. During a special time, the Chinese government has also taken a series of measures to reboot the economy and support different enterprises. For example, the Publicity Ministry of Shanghai Municipal Committee announced to take 20 measures to help the cultural institutions. The measures have given the local art museums more time and money to organize exhibitions and related events. In addition to the stable environment, our museum have also made additional efforts to hold large-scale events. Exhibition organizers have adopted different approaches to showcase high-quality exhibitions, accommodate as many visitors as possible, and expand their influence. The 13th Shanghai Biennale can serve as a typical example. It is the leading biennial in China. Since 2012, Power Station of Art PSA has become the main organizer and the major exhibition site of the Shanghai Biennale. In the past editions, he always maintained the city Shanghai as its primary focus. The 13th Shanghai Biennale was scheduled to take place in November 2020. Andrew Drake worked as the chief curator, leading a curatorial team composed of 4 other renowned world curators. Themed as Bodies of Water, the Biennale aimed to reflect on how collectivities are made tangible and bodies in wet togetherness, exploring diverse forms of Aquarianness. The outbreak of the pandemic disturbed the original plan, and the organizational committee came up with the idea that operated the Biennale as an ongoing project. Before the opening of the exhibition, Shanghai Biennale first launched a series of events and projects as warm-up. The extended exhibition period allows more visitors to participate in it, despite the restrictions on the number of visitors. There were also problems regarding curatorial practices. Because of the travel restrictions, curators cannot work together physically in Shanghai, and they cannot conduct modeling and test the display on site. They have to work remotely, and as explained by one of the curators, Ramos, they work as a well-rehearsed jazz band, spending less time in composing while spending more time in turning. From this point of view, the pandemic has forced us to change our minds and adopt new ways to work together. The theme of the Biennale also associated with the health crisis that we were facing. The Biennale collected and presented artworks that re-examine the relationship between human beings, the environment, and the Earth's climate. Bodies of water also engages with the fact that Shanghai is a city on the sea. Running like fluidity, the biennial lasts for as long as maybe 8 months and was widely connected with the history of the city, the online, the online platforms, and the international institutions through three exhibition phases. Initiated in November 2020, Phase 1, a red run rehearsal, was a summit that lasted for 4 days. One of the special projects was the performance Ocean Brief scheduled at the opening. Artist Ixa Akurzi and her doctor contributed the performance remotely. Although the artists cannot perform on site, they were still able to give the audience an immersive experience. In phase one, artists and researchers developed their works mainly with the audience cooperation. Meanwhile, the exhibition organizers got a chance to practice new curatorial methods and save more time to prepare the main exhibition. Phase 2 was called An Ecosystem of Alliances, running for 5 months. One of the highlights was the cooperation with local universities. For instance, New York University Shanghai presented a project called Movement Memory Mapping, focused on the fluid nature of identity, memory, and experience and place. Such projects help to increase the exposure of the emerging artists who may not have a graduation show as usual during the pandemic time. After warming up for half a year, the major part of the Biennale, Phase 3, finally opened on April 17, 2021. Once entered the entrance of Power Station of Art, visitors will quickly notice the water system series in the center of the hall. Recycled blue tents were structured together like a giant sail, imitating the waves of water. Alongside the sail is a wooden boat hanging in the virtual sea space. This is the Water System Museum, which was rebuilt from an abandoned ferry boat. We also recorded local stories and residents' relationship with water. Together, the series of artworks explore how the disaster could exist in a fluid form. It continually exists and has become part of everyday lives. The thing could also apply to what happened now. We need to accept the fact that the COVID-19 may coexist with us for a long time. Another eye-catching large installation at Biennale is Cecilia Vacuna's Triple Menstrual Shanghai. Vacuna made a monumental installation by knotting a deep red dye wool together, dangling them from the ceiling and pulling on the floor. The color of the knots evokes the idea of menstrual blood and reflects the intricacy of women's bodies. Triple Menstrual illustrated how human bodies are interconnected with our environment through forms of fluidity. The attention to women's bodies also echoes the theme of the Biennale to some extent. In China, there was a popular saying, women are made with water, men are made with dirt. In this Biennale, female artists accounted for around half of the total artists, which was also a breakthrough. Trained as an architect, the main curator also brought his ways to choose a wide range of artists, so that selecting artworks created by artists, architects, and researchers coming from different areas. The main exhibition has ambitiously covered a wide range of issues and turned into a cultural anthropology showcase, discussing all kinds of issues related to human beings. The 13th Shanghai Biennale has also followed some important traditions, such as the holding of the city projects. One of them was the Shanghai Biennale Hydro, which called for local participants to rediscover the waterways in Shanghai that have been either hidden or diverted by employing a tailor-made WeChat mini program. The Biennale has received many criticism. Lisa Morris commented that the exhibition was somehow watery and diffuse, including too many voices, while lacking visual highlights and co-opinions. Writer Henry Zhang argued that the text explanation did not help the viewers to understand the artworks. The comments all pointed out the shortcomings of the exhibition. To conclude, because of the outbreak of the pandemic, the launch of the 13th Shanghai Biennale has experienced many difficulties, and the exhibition organizers have managed to conquer the problems. There were many highlights. The Biennale has formed partnerships with universities to conduct further academic research. Emerging artists and those who are focusing on interdisciplinary subjects were introduced. The focus on female artists was also a remarkable one. The main exhibition also has some problems regarding the curatorial framework, text explanation, and the lack of focus. We can believe that the Shanghai Biennale would perform better without the restriction posed by the pandemic. During the pandemic time, it seems especially difficult to start new museums and biennials. X Museum was one of the unfortunate ones. Situated in Beijing, X Museum postponed its grand opening, but its virtual museum and the virtual X Museum Triennial launched as scheduled. The co-founders of the X Museums are Michael Shifu Huang and Qu Yixia. They are both leading millionaire art collectors in China, and their reputation helped draw attention to the X Museum as well. As described by Huang, the ambition of the museum is to build a platform for those not well-known Chinese artists and promote them to the global audience. He also planned to make the X Museum Triennial the Chinese Venice Biennale. It will reveal Chinese contemporary art and its development with a focus on emerging artists. To reduce the impact brought by the pandemic, X Museum has adopted a series of measures. It launched the interactive virtual project, Virtual First X Museum Triennial, as scheduled. The long-term plan project related to the young museum's ambition to celebrate new ideas and multiplicity of cultures. By using the arrow keys, viewers can explore the different portals and enter artists' viewing rooms to play with their virtual artworks. The building of the VR exhibition project corresponds to the interests of the young founders, curators, and the target audience, who are all millionaires. Compared with other new museums, X Museum was more well prepared for the crisis, as the virtual exhibition helped warm up for the exhibition. Move on to the main exhibition. The theme of the triennial was How Do We Begin? It highlighted that the new experience and knowledge brought by new media and technology in the digital age and aimed to foster effective information exchange among the audience and art practitioners. Walking through the main entrance, visitors will first encounter the installation Good Things Come Naturally. The name of the installation came from the famous slogan, Good Things Come Naturally, after opening up Remy Martin. By creating this piece of work, the young artists from Shenzhen wanted to acknowledge the economic achievement of the city and express homesickness. Directly facing the sculpture is the lighting installation Flower Garden by Yu Cheng Wang. The flowers can absorb solar energy to shine and spine, showing the energy brought by the information age. These two iconic installations have shown how capable millionaire artists are to employ popular symbols and examine our lives surrounding by live media, laying down the first impression on the museum and the exhibition. The first triennial chapter, Media and Technology, focus on new media itself and the content. Here mainly exhibited installation and video artworks. This was Liu Xing's Living Distance, an interactive multimedia installation. The audience can wear the VR equipment and experience the journey of the wisdom tooth. In this exhibition section, artists have employed their wide imagination to prove, add, or challenge Marshall McLuhan's idea, media determining consciousness, or Raymond Williams' opposite idea that public life and technological development is inseparable. The second chapter of the exhibition was called Social Reflector. Keywords of the curatorial text were popular culture, internet aware, social networks, and the digital domain world. Artist Xie Yi recorded the chatting of factory workers in Dongguan and made up an Eastern love story, Romeo and Juliet. In these sections, artists examine and critique their quotidian details, largely invaded by social networks. The last exhibition space was more architecture focused, called Artists and Architects as Narrators. Other than the main exhibition, X Museum also cooperated with the idol and singer Lei Zhang to curate a pop-up exhibition and launch Zhang's fourth album, Lotus. This was the first time that a contemporary art museum in China curated an exhibition for an MV. The cross-industry cooperation has attracted a large number of visitors. For a newly opened museum located in Beijing's inconvenient suburb, the exhibition has effectively promoted to the general audience. X Museum Triennial has also shouldered the responsibility of educating the audience of promoting contemporary Chinese art. It sets an X Museum Triennial Award to award one participating artist whose work has anticipated the future of contemporary Chinese art. Liu Xing won the prize based on her work Living Distance. Today, few Chinese biennials have such awards, and the X Museum Triennial Award can support and encourage young artists during the difficult time. There were also a series of public programs that interact with the theme of the triennial. The Room X program provided opportunities for young artists to launch artistic practices and engage with the audience directly. In conclusion, the first X Museum Triennial has brought us many surprises. The focus on young and emerging artists was unprecedented and encouraging. The option to view the virtual triennial benefited a lot of visitors who could not come to Beijing. The museum also made efforts to accommodate the new changes that happened during the pandemic time. To summarize, the biennial organizers have mainly taken these measures to deal with the new situation in the pandemic time. Expand online, extend exhibition period and scope, form new cooperation, schedule new projects and events, follow the public health guidance and take additional measures, incorporate the pandemic situation into the theme and artistic practice of the exhibition. We should also notice the pandemic situation keep changing, and many believe that the post-pandemic time has arrived. A lot of data show that the dominant Omicron variant was no longer life-threatening, and many countries have announced to coexist with the COVID. China became the only country that adopted the dynamic zero COVID-19 strategies. Meanwhile, since the Omicron can spread far more quickly compared with the original virus, it also poses huge threats to the strategy. Now in China, sporadic outbreaks can still lead to the lockdown of certain areas and the pause of all kinds of unnecessary activities. Many cultural institutions have to shut down for disease prevention purpose. Because of the outbreak in Shanghai, all cultural institutions have to shut down from late March to May, and all exhibition plans have been postponed. M Plus Museum remain closing for around 2 months because of the fifth wave of COVID-19 in Hong Kong. The regular running of the cultural institution and events depends on stable external environment. The enforcement of the dynamic zero COVID policy means that when there is an outbreak of the COVID, normal activities will be heavily impacted. Thus, the future of the cultural activities remains uncertain if China insists on the strict public health policies. Still, we can learn from the example of the 13th Shanghai Biennale and the first X Museum Triennial to conquer the unprecedented difficulties to hold the art events. It is not an impossible task, and during this time, we especially need the help of art to express our anxiety, our worries, and our hope for our future.